From KGW, this is The Good Stuff.
It's where the gorge really starts to open up, and you really start to see the pine trees, the oak trees, and just have a really, dramatic basalt cliffs.
Tonight on The Good Stuff, a trip to the eastern part of the Columbia River Gorge, West Mayor State Park. It's a popular fishing spot now with a new boat ramp. Thank you for joining us. I'm Tim Gordon. The park closed for improvements, but will reopen just in time for summer. John Goodwin takes us there for the latest edition of Let's Get Out There.
This is a fantastic spot to come east.
Between Hood River and the Dalles, find a new spot in the gorge.
How different this is than the western part of the gorge. In terms of the landscape, it's where the gorge really starts to open up, and you really start to see the pine trees, the oak trees, and just have a really, dramatic basalt cliffs.
David Spangler is the Columbia River Gorge Park Manager for Oregon State Parks. He stands in front of the brand new boat ramp at West Mayor State Park.
West Mayor State Park is a really popular boat ramp, and that is used heavily during salmon fishing season. During the off season, when it's not heavy fishing season, this is a great protected bay to use for kayaking, stand-up paddle boarding.
Park improvements began last fall and are almost complete. Besides the new boat ramp and new water main line, new plants are in the ground and fresh pavement will be the finishing touch.
And seeing this come to fruition, especially when it is a ramp that is really heavily used, an area that's really heavily used, and to see an improvement for the public is really rewarding.
The $1.1 million project was paid for by Oregon State Parks, along with grants from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife and Oregon State Marine Board. Along this mile-long stretch are the middle and east section of Mayor State Park, middle being a popular picnic spot and east great for windsurfing. West Mayor is on track to reopen in time for Memorial Day weekend. It's free to use the boat ramp and enjoy the $1 million view.
And this park sees a lot less usage and really is a spot where you can find a little bit more quiet than you would typically find at a lot of our parks in the western edge of the gorge. And we always encourage folks to come out, explore the east end of the gorge, and of course also come out early, come out often, because as things get crowded, it's really nice to be able to spend some quiet time in that.
In the gorge, I'm John Goodwin. Let's get out there.
And we want to know your favorite outdoor spots and see your pictures too, of course. Share them by texting us at 503-226-5088. Well, happening this weekend, it's the second annual Oregon AAPI Food and Wine Fest. The event celebrates Asian American communities. Last year it sold out, and this year, well, it may be an encore. Christine Pitawanich spoke to the owners of Cho Wines about their brand new tasting room and the festival.
It's pretty crazy. This has been like a decade-long dream in the making, and I can't believe it. Actually, it's here.
This is Lois and Dave Cho's newest project, a beautiful tasting room for Cho Wines in Hillsboro.
So when you arrive here, we'll be welcoming you with some welcome bubbles. This is Shab, our Director of Hospitality.
Thanks, Shab.
Cheers. Cheers.
From the amazing wines produced here.
Our Dreamer's Reserve Pinot Noir, our champagne-style bubbly. You really can't go wrong.
To the fun little details.
The finger heart is an homage to our Korean culture. The circle windows are pretty common in Asian architecture, and we wanted to frame that beautiful tree. Dave and I joke that it looks exactly like the tree on the Oregon license plate. We call it our jewel box, and so every corner you turn will be this beautiful little, what do you say? It's beautiful.
A little pop of design.
And not to mention the awesome views.
We're looking at the coastal range. Right over there is the Wapato Lake Wildlife Refuge.
There's lots to cheers to for this couple. Their journey has been a whirlwind.
We call ourselves an Instagram winery because literally during the pandemic we launched our winery in 2020. We got a lot of press coverage initially because Dave's the first Korean American winemaker. People have asked us how our heritage plays into our winemaking.
It's all about the food I grew up eating, and then so I like to tend to make wine that really pairs well with you know, obviously Asian food, but also American food because I grew up here.
And now they're even busier, preparing for the second annual Oregon AAPI Food and Wine Fest on Saturday and Sunday, May 18th and 19th.
It's a huge celebration of the food and wine, the AAPI input that goes into the rich culinary landscape that we have here in Portland and Willamette Valley.
So yeah, these two are super busy.
Then you'll get like a chillable red wine and stuff, things that are really exciting and
Chillable.
But not too busy to have some fun.
Looks great out there, and they are having fun. Well, tickets are $75, which includes 12 bites, 10 wine tastings, and 2 mocktails. That's a lot. The event is this Saturday and Sunday at the Stoller Family Estates in Dayton. For more information, you can head to OregonAAPIFoodandWine.com. Well, at only 22 years old, one woman is already a co-owner of Portland's first Somali-owned coffee shop. Growing up in the Rose City, she was always loving to see people's moods get lifted by the energy in a coffee house. Sydney Dorner explains how a sneaker store spurred her into action.
Portland is full of coffee houses, but none like above ground.
I come from a big family. I have a lot of nieces, nephews, and a lot of coffee shops in Portland tend to be like kind of small and like aren't as family friendly.
Ahla Osman was born and raised here in Portland, coming from a Somalian family of 10. Her friend Muhammad was always a fan of sneakers, working closely with the owners of a sneaker store off Northwest Flanders and Broadway called Bridge City Souls. The store had a vacant second floor, and the friends immediately knew what would work great in the space.
He loved the idea of like sneakers and coffee, and just like the idea of like having like a lounge area above a sneaker store.
Muhammad Alam and her brother Abdul Rahim are all in their 20s with no formal education in business. They started working on the small business back in the fall, proud to have just had a grand opening for the coffee house in April.
Did you want that iced or hot?
The menu is a head nod to their East African roots, with a banana and date latte on the menu and spices infused into the drinks.
As Somalis, we eat a lot of bananas. We eat it with our rice, we eat it with our pasta. And then we also use a lot of like cardamom and cinnamon and like anti-inflammatory spices like in our food.
Even though it's been only 1 month since the grand opening, they've already found a community here in Old Town, making it their mission for the space to be welcoming, whether it be board games or inviting artists to work in their space.
Feel free to buy a cup of coffee and express yourself doing art or studying or, you know, having a conversation with a friend or getting to know one another or even coming in here and getting to know one of us.
Sydney Dorner, KGW News.
And continued success for them. Well, stay with us because after the break, KGW meteorologist Rod Hill takes us on a road trip out to the Central Oregon coast. Check out some of the local attractions in Florence when we return. But before we go, hey, it's the Dalles. Check out the sky cam out there at the Veterans Home. Kind of pointed a little bit west and some clouds in the sky and the sun starting to set a little lower. We'll be right back. In the newest installment of our Rod on the Road series, Sunrise meteorologist Rodney Hill is headed to Florence. And no, we're not talking about Italy here. We're, of course, talking about Florence, Oregon, home of the sea lion caves, sand dunes, and more. Take a look.
Ahoy, Captain, I see ya! It's a lighthouse. Seriously though, check this out. The Hasita Lighthouse, as pretty of a setting as you will see anywhere up and down the entire Oregon coast. We are here, Sea Lion Caves, the manager Jim McMillan with me. Jim, how far underground are we standing right now?
The elevator will take you 208 feet down to the sea level here.
Straight down?
Yeah.
How many sea lions would you estimate are in the cave right now that we're looking at today?
Oh, there's probably about 100 in there today, and the other half of them are out at our lookout. They're starting to breed and have their pups this time of year.
How come they hold their heads like this? You're telling me they stink like that?
Yes.
Why, Jim, why?
I don't know, it doesn't look very comfortable to me.
No, I'm getting tired already. Before I go down this slope, how fast am I gonna go, Caleb?
You're gonna be feeling like you're going Mach 1. In reality, you're gonna be going about 5 miles an hour.
All right, let's stick with Mach 1.
All right,
we are
Mach
at
1.
Sand Masters
Yep.
here in Florence.
Yes, sir.
On the dunes. You open year round?
Yes, we are.
I'm preparing to, what am I doing? I'm boarding? What do you call this?
Sandboarding.
I'm preparing to sandboard.
Put your foot in there.
Okay, all right. Stand up and put all my weight on my heels.
Yep, all your
Caleb,
weight.
give me a hand. All right, got my weights on my heels.
Just like that. All right. What's more important than a good stance is not being scared. Do you feel scared?
I'm not scared.
Great. Remember to keep that weight
Whoa!
Just like that, man.
Photoshop me to look like him.
Maybe we just call it sand scooting today.
Yeah. Here we go!
You were sliding, man.
We are here on the Sayusla. There's a river, and these are the dunes. Doug is our tour guide, and our tour today, how long?
Half an hour.
Half an hour.
Yep, this is our half-hour fast and exciting sand rail ride.
You said 60 miles an hour.
That will be our top speed, yep.
Goggles down.
Oh, wow. Some of the largest dunes in North America are right here.
Did you get that? This is so much more than I ever realized it was. That was absolutely one of the funnest things on this job I've ever done. Florence, 10,000 population, Scott, about, is that right?
Right about 10,000.
All right. Your job is to promote this beautiful city.
I love this city.
The best thing about the city that people need to experience when they come visit.
The uncrowded beaches, the dunes. We call this place Oregon's coastal playground.
First impression, Scott, is that it's not busy like, you know, I'm living up in Portland, Seaside a lot, Cannon Beach a lot. This is a little quieter.
It is a more rustic experience than you get on the North Coast, and there are all those things you just can't do anywhere else. Florence is a great place for families, for couples, for girlfriend getaways. 36 restaurants here in town. Among the 300 to 400 businesses.
Plenty of good seafood options. When I go to the coast, I want seafood.
Lots of good seafood here.
Big shout out to ICM International Seafood Restaurant. Their chowder, are you ready? The flavor is really good. Perfect way to end my day in Florence.
Oh, thank you to Rod Hill and photojournalist Eric Patterson, who was down. You made us all want to go to Florence now. Thank you very much. Well, coming up, an out-of-this-world science opportunity for a group of Washington middle schoolers. See their collaboration with NASA after the break. But first, let's head back out to the coast in Cannon Beach, and there's the sky cam. Hey, a little bit of drizzle on that lens, I can tell, and certainly some cloudy skies. But that's okay. More of that to come, plus some sunshine. It's going to be all over the place the next few days. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Good Stuff. This next story involves a group of middle schoolers from Washington who are finalizing a project that's out of this world. Leah Pizzetti shows us how their science experiment is heading to outer space with NASA.
Help yourself. This middle school classroom is full of young minds.
Yeah, it's a blood cell.
With huge potential.
It's highly technological.
11 students working together.
Doesn't look like an SO2 sensor.
To send a handful of science experiments into space.
Come on in.
They're led by planetary scientist and open window teacher Trudy Hugenboom.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Who says NASA's Student Tech Rise competition that these kids just won is out of this world.
Gives you the ability to design your own experiments, think up, dream up anything that you like, build the instrument, have it flown on either a stratospheric balloon or a rocket lander, and then have it land and get the data to, do real science on.
The students first brainstormed 7 different experiments they'd want to conduct in space.
From our sulfur dioxide data, we can approximate mercury in the atmosphere.
We're sending tardigrades up to see the differences between the control groups here and what we send up.
I just wanted to see the difference between radiation levels on the ground and in the sky.
They have to fit all of the necessary tools needed for these tests into one small box.
I'm working on our 3D model of the experiment.
That's also designed by them.
For example, you can see the sensors and the chips all in this model, so we can have a nice visualization of what the experiment box will look like.
Then they actually build that box, soldering all the pieces together. Then send it to NASA to launch into space and gather their data.
Connor coded it so that they send the results back to our computers that we have here, and then we'll assess them and compare them to levels that we can find here on Earth.
They're not sure what they'll discover with these tests, but for these students, it might be more about the path to get there.
It's just really exciting.
Than what's uncovered.
Especially being 6th grade and 8th grade, just doing it at this age is pretty cool.
Cool and exciting for sure. Well, the students' box is expected to be sent to space this summer. They say they'll be hosting a watch party. I don't blame them. Well, up next, a look deep into Oregon's past. How researchers are correcting a misconception about prehistoric fish in the state. And a peek outside from our Rose City sky camera as the sun gets a little lower on the horizon, breaking through the clouds a little bit, and the crowds maybe. We'll be right back. New research from the University of Oregon and the Museum of Natural and Cultural History is changing the perception of prehistoric salmon. Scientists say a fish known as the Sabertooth salmon didn't have outward or downward pointing teeth. It did have instead spiked teeth that pointed outwards. Deidre Johnson has more on what scientists are calling an amazing discovery.
If you look at pictures of salmon from the prehistoric era, you'll often see them with protruding teeth that pointed downward. But now, new research shows that wasn't true.
Previous scientists have figured that these big teeth look like a saber-toothed cat, but the new specimens that we found are intact, and the new teeth don't point down like a saber-toothed cat's teeth do. They point out to the side like a warthog.
The giant salmon grew to almost 8.5 feet and lived 5 million years ago in Oregon. Researchers believe the spiked teeth on the fossils were about 2 inches long and slightly curved. Scientists say they were important to reproduction.
Now that we know they point to the side, we think that these teeth were there for probably for fighting for space to reproduce.
The fossils were found on private land in Gateway, Oregon. It's a discovery that scientists say is a game changer to understanding the origins of salmon.
These ancient salmon that lived in that warm ocean 5 million years ago were actually primarily filter feeding. And that's why I think they got to be so big.
Deidre Johnson, KGW News.
Salmon, a big part of our history. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but thank you very much for making a little time for the good stuff tonight. We're going to leave you with a stunning view from our Newport sky camera. You can see the Yaquina Bay Bridge off in the distance, kind of in the haze or the fog, something like that, maybe mist in the air. It's pretty cloudy at the coast, maybe coming our way. Hope you have a great night, everybody.